Hello everyone, welcome to the Advancement Centre and welcome once again to the world of magic and miracles. Today we venture into new areas once again and we lift ourselves well above that elevated platform of living that's held you steady for some time. In lifting above it, you'll find that it's quite different even to last week, because everything is moving in its own special pattern, and all of nature is coordinating in this effort that you all have to making everything flow in a way that's never flowed before. The significance of every movement can be seen from all parts of the universe. And even though you're not sure that you're doing anything different, I can assure you you are. Every tiny movement is starting to show up in the true light that it's supposed to. It doesn't mean we're achieving the ultimate, it means we are there. And the ultimate keeps moving forward, and that's why we talk about advancement all the time. One of the things that's been very obvious over the last few moments, I suppose, is that the connection between now and a few moments ago is totally gone. And so when we talk about how we go forward, we don't really have anything to work with. The good reason for this is because there is a whole new operating system available to every person in the world and in many other places. But the new operating system is such that you don't even figure out how to do anything. You move because you move. You go forward because you go forward. You don't go forward because you pushed on something, or you dragged something, or you manipulated something. You simply go forward. There is no reason, and there is no instruction needed. It's a little bit like gravity. It's always there. And you know about it, you use it, sometimes you work against it. But what's available to us in this operating system is unlimited, and I know you've heard that before. But as we start to talk to one another about all the great things that are happening around us, all the newness, all the celebration, you feel this essence come up around you that holds you steady and keeps lifting you and brings excitement that you've never felt before. And it's not an excitement that you look at and say, wow, that's interesting. It's an excitement that's part of you. It builds within every cell of your being, your body. It excites all your senses, and it enhances everything. So anything analytic, as you could see, I couldn't even say it. It doesn't even come into any part of any equation. The beauty that we see, feel, and experience is now filling all the gaps where we used to stuff all the strange stuff that we generated as part of our everyday livelihood. Now, all the stuff we generate just goes up in smoke. It doesn't even stay around. As we feel our energies rise and we feel our ability to generate more for everybody, it goes into a new form of momentum. That form of momentum is one that is continually increasing, continually doubling and doubling again. And we just had a nice visit from a bird, just came and landed beside me. There's a lot of really active interaction with birds and the lizards, and we have all sorts of things happening around us just to keep me distracted. This is part of what I'm talking about. As we generate more and more, it supports every dimension. It supports the birds and it supports life around you. And we thought it was the other way around. We actually provide more support for the growth and the smaller animals than you could possibly imagine, because they can live freely in the flow that we provide without a sense of fear, without a sense of destruction. And if you look at it, that's what we always wanted for ourselves. The very nature of who we are is the reverse of what we lived in the past. We only live to progress. We only live to love one another and to love everything around us. We only live to live life to its fullest and to break through the barriers that were placed around us is almost impossible. So we used our magic and just didn't even have to make them disappear. We just stepped straight past them all and went to where we could administer special gifts that we bring to the world without any reference to any barriers. So physically, those barriers can be described. When you have stepped past them, they don't mean anything. It's like someone describing a very thin curtain as a brick wall. You look at them and say, don't you realize you only have to, and the curtain comes back? It's not a brick wall. The person who describes it as a brick wall won't even approach it. So everything we've done over the past few months is the simple application of what we've always known and what we brought here. And the simplicity is you don't have to do anything if you decide not to. You can if you want to. If you decide not to do anything and to work with the magic, you are so active that you wonder how you've got enough time in the day. So the two don't relate. And the more you exist in the world above that platform of that elevated platform of living, the more you see it all disappear. Because they were all aids to get to where you are, and you didn't have to go anywhere. You didn't even have to pull back the curtain. You didn't have to get out of your chair. And you didn't even have to change your mind. All that stayed where it was, and your new experience is totally new. As we start to see things as new, all the formulas in the world will attempt to come in and describe it. But nothing can describe the nothingness where your magic and your miracles reside. And it's a physical place, but it's not necessarily one that everybody can see. And it changes every minute, and it will always remain a mystery. So the mystical part of each person is the most honourable part of any being ever in the universe. And that mystical part, if it's allowed to just float around, do its thing, everybody's impressed, including the person who holds the mystery. Because the mystery is a mystery to you as well. That you do know it's yours. And somewhere inside you, you hold that smile that says, I don't need to reveal that mystery, but I do use it. And I use it every day for a positive purpose because I don't know how to use it otherwise. And so the sparkles that surround everybody are starting to become real. And all the old theories of how we're made up, you watch, they'll disappear. Because the second I mention sparkles, you can feel your sparkles. If I mention chakras, you go, huh? It's a manufactured set of theories that you can make work, but it's hard work. But as soon as I say sparkles, you sparkle. Everything comes alive, every dimension starts to feed into you, and you have more than you've ever had in a fraction of a second. And you don't need explanation. As we interact with one another and our structure becomes real, in the reality that we painted, the painting will disappear. All the theories will disappear because everybody knows everyone. They know their characteristics, but they also know what's beyond that. And if we look, if we look beyond all the characteristics, we can look back and see them all. And it doesn't matter. You know what role the person's playing at the moment, and you say, well, that was good. Enjoyed that. But you know it's not the personality that came to Earth to make a difference. All the presentations in the world by children, by great artists, can only be presented by the particular artist or child. If anyone else tries to present it, it takes years of practice to try to get close to it. But when the real person gets up there and transmits their magic, it's a class beyond what anybody can ever do. And it doesn't matter who that is. Why I'm stressing that is because it's the role of every person to display that perfection that only they can display. And as each person displays it, you don't have any rules. It's new. It has the magic with it, and it's not copying anything. And as you present that magic, which is totally individual, everyone will look. Everyone will be pleased, and you won't get any comments except, great, that was beautiful. And I don't ever know anybody who's looked at a fluffy animal and how they act and said anything except, wow, that's beautiful. And the reason for that is because they allow their total energy and power into the world. They don't hold any brick walls up. They don't hold anything up to stop you appreciate them. So one of the things I wrote this morning is about your personal power. And we thought personal power was strength. It's more than that. If you open all doors and allow all your power to penetrate everything, it's totally smooth, non-aggressive, has no sharp edges, and it's totally accepted immediately. If you try to hold that back in any way, it's like putting your finger on the front of the hose. It starts to squirt everywhere, make a noise, and get over everybody. And it doesn't really help anything around you. So the more you hold back, the more disturbance you make. So the theories behind everything go back to front again. You open everything to the world, it's just like a beautiful stream. Everyone appreciates it. But that beautiful stream has massive power. Can drive a generator, can drive a power station, just like we can. And it's most appreciated for its beauty and its elegance and its gentleness. But if you stick it through a fire hose, you're in trouble. So in looking at the next stages of just getting used to who you are, remember, the moment you hold back, you've just disturbed everything. You've just shot a fire hose around your lounge room and destroyed everybody in it. Whereas if everything's running smoothly and everything's open and you go with the flow, each one of your flows are massive, but they won't run into one another. They will actually all fit because they're all a different dimension, a different vibration, going in a different direction. And our brain can't get around that, but it's how it is. And that's why I keep saying it won't be long before you start to bring physical things into the world in front of you. And everybody will just look at it and say, oh, that's pretty good. I hope you need to use it because otherwise you're making a big mess. But we're capable of making a big mess, and we're capable of making an elegant decision. That elegant decision is what comes from being a universal being. Whatever is needed arrives just before you figure out you need it. And it comes in a package that you don't really recognize. And so you get the thrill that we all get of opening the package, not knowing what it is. And people who love to surprise people, you only have to stay in the mode you're in now and you'll be surprised every minute of your day. Everyone will be, and it'll all be individual. Because the packages that turn up are quite amazing. You know, out of nowhere, the news of a young child just being born, which we had this morning. And Victoria's sister had a young child this morning. It lifts everybody out of nowhere. Many other, we think, little pieces of news are actually major in the energy that we've brought to this world. And each one of us can open that up to make space for all those new people who are coming in. There are so many examples that I could sit here for days and run through them. And I may yet, you never know. But the gentlest thing is the most powerful. The smallest is more powerful than the big. We loved pick the new ripe tomatoes and cut them in halves and have half each. And the flavour goes right through you. And the energy of such a small thing is enormous. And it's enough to keep you going physically for days. And we'll get into that as we go along. You don't have to go without eating, but you do need to continue to nourish, overnourish everything about you. If you try to measure the amount of energy that you need to run your body, you probably can. But when I tell you your body is not you, and you can be as big as the universe in a moment, and you can be any place, anywhere, how much energy does that require? An enormous amount. And then when I tell you, you generate that yourself, it stops you in your tracks. And before long, we'll be proving to one another that we can generate all that energy anytime we want. As the acceptance of all the data is bringing about a new awareness, there's something inside of us that suddenly knows, just like the light switches on, is that what it all is? Oh, I remember this and this and this and this, that all fits together. Wow, why didn't they give it to me in the right order? It doesn't work in order. It totally works out of order. Otherwise, where's the magic? Otherwise, the brain gets in the road and starts to paint its own picture. And says, I know what it is, it's a bottle. I said, no, 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 no. It's not a bottle, it's a spaceship. You've just seen the little bottle of glue that we use to glue it together. And the brain will do that. And it makes all these assumptions along the road as it starts to see things. So much of the data that you've seen and heard over years, or just by walking around and getting all these, what you call strange messages, or when you talk to yourself, or when you sleep. And then all of a sudden, it all comes together into something that has a reality that you've never seen before. And you just smile and say, yeah, great. Very, very complex package, but great. So as you start to see new developments from people, not just scientific, but new ways of lifting, you're almost out of your seat. You'll say, how did you do that? And you'll just get a quick smile, a flick of the head, and you'll understand the mystery. And this is what we do for each other. And if the supplies into certain areas of the world need to change. It won't be long before we'll all just say, okay, and it's done. But it won't be because somebody asked. It'll be because you got someone to ask. Get your brain around that. You attracted someone from somewhere, under some circumstance, to ask you a specific question or a request, and you granted it. There's the miracle. There's the ability of each person. And the news that someone got well after they spoke to you. There's the miracle. You don't need to know all the detail. You don't need to know who was involved or what method they used. After a while, you'll get to know that that's all part of it. The little details are all captured in your personal program of simplicity. Now the brain can go really wild and say, well, how do I do that? Nobody told me. Where's the method? Prove it. And all you do is smile and never try to prove anything, because it's not up to anyone else, only up to you. And it's always up to you. And it's not up to your decision, and it's not up to what comes into your mind. It's up to the perfection that you generate through that mystical being that you brought into this world and hid under the disguise of a body. Now we're getting to where everything makes sense. And it even makes sense to your brain. When you try to hide something, you do a really good job because you're a mystical being. And you even hide things behind habits. You hide things behind, well, that shouldn't have happened. I'll never do that again. Anything. Or what did you do that for? You hide behind that an enormous amount of stuff that you didn't want to do in this world. As we move along a little bit further, all those, I call them hidey holes, which are sometimes monstrous, are going to open up. And so all the times we've said, I'll never do that again, or that's not for me, or I know it's all right for you, releases you from presenting the gift that you brought to the world. So many of the things you said, I can't do that, or it's all right for you, or I'll never do that again, or that's terrible. They're hiding the talent that you really have. So as they fall away, don't be surprised if you start doing all the things that you said you can't do. Because you will be pleased to. And all the things you've said, I'll let somebody else do that, they're better at it than me, you'll find suddenly reverses and you're leading the way. The mystery and the mystique of each person has waited until now to present itself, but it's going to present itself to you as well. So as your own mystique pops out into the open, you'll be saying, oh no. It's like being on the roller coaster and you get to the top and you say, I wanted to be on the roller coaster, until you get to the top and you say, oh no. What am I in for now? But at the end of it, you enjoy it. So no, it will be just like being on the roller coaster. So I won't predict anything, but be aware that when they come out of nowhere, just nod your head and say, okay, here we go. So most of the difficulties everybody's been stuck with in their life will change form. They won't fix, they won't change, they'll change form. And in changing form, they're new. And instead of being a pain in the backside, they'll be a piece of magic, a big piece of magic, where you'll display skills that you didn't want to show before. So as we get to the, I think we're going to have a break in a second. As we get to that break, just see that I'm jumping around all over the place to try and let you know that there's still something you're missing. And it's that simplicity that cuts through everything and takes no notice of any barriers. As you take yourself into that simplicity and watch yourself just like you watch a child or a beautiful animal hold themselves open, totally open to the world, with the power beyond belief, you'll feel the gentleness of your own being, and you'll feel it mystically start to show itself and sparkle to fill everybody's life. Thank you. We'll be back soon with some more stuff. So welcome back. We've got a few more things to talk about, I think. I'm not really sure what they are. They'll just flow as they come. But I think the biggest thing that we revealed a while ago was the sense of that mystical being that you're hiding somewhere and you think it's inside you. In fact, the only thing that's inside you is the spark that the mystical being placed there to maintain your being in the physical plane. And that spark, everybody knows about. And as you step forward, that will start to show. And it's more than a light. It's an intensity that is more potent than a nuclear reaction. So in revealing that to yourself, something happens. The communication system turns on and you immediately a universal being connected to a source that only you know. So without playing with that too much, because it is really potent, understand that that is what your purpose is, to reveal that spark that connects you to everything and does something as soon as you mention it. You don't have to do anything about anything physical, but you will produce magic that nobody can understand. And that magic, you know the power of when I mention that spark within you. So that mystical being is actually focused into that area to provide the nourishment to the physical being and to everything you want to generate in this world. So when I talk about the fact that you're transmitting, that's where you're transmitting from. And it has nothing to do with your head. And it's not in your heart. It's in a place that nobody can find. It's very close to your heart, but it's not there and it's not in that dimension. It's totally protected against anything and everything. So besides having a mystical being behind you and having the magic and the sparkles, you have a powerhouse inside you that exists not just inside you, but everywhere. So the moment power is needed at a place that's, I don't know, 50, 60,000 miles away, in an instant, you can supply it. In less than an instant. We will demonstrate a few of these things after a while, but not until everybody is in a position where they want to, where it's no longer a gimmick. When we all get to the point where we want to make a difference in ways that we couldn't imagine, and we want it not from thought or reason, then it will happen in an instant. And that wanting comes with awareness. Awareness of the fact that you can all work together and not damage one another in any way at all. Awareness of the fact that all of a sudden you feel you have to act, and you're acting for the whole world and more. At a point where you know that if the pointer comes around to you, you don't even have to ask. You know. And I don't need to give examples because it's happened to all of us at some stage in our life, where we've had to respond and we didn't know how we even did it. When this occurs again, it will seem like it's at the same time for everyone. But remember, I spoke about time for each person, and it's never the same for anyone. It just seems that way in this world. So things will be done in your time, at your time, your rate of time, your direction of time, or in the timeless zone where you don't care about it. And then it will appear at the totally correct time to be in harmony with the movement of the earth. There's a skill that is hidden behind that mystical being that says, don't talk to me about time and events. Just talk to me. I know what to do, and I know when to do it. So that's why I keep saying conversation is great. It doesn't need a reason. Interaction is great. It doesn't need a reason. And the dance that happens in a space that you can't even see, but you can feel it. You can feel the essence of being with people, no matter where they are, even if they're the other side of the camera. It's here now, and it's in a form that's real. And time doesn't matter, because I feel the people who are going to watch in the future, right now, and the reaction they'll have, and the sense of well-being that will come out of it. So this is the mystery behind the magical being, or the mystical being, who is magical. I don't know. But it's one of those things where you do not have to relate time or event or intensity or even any sense of how. Each one of you knows if the pointer comes around to you, you'll know exactly what to do, exactly how big, and what it entails. And it will just burst out from you in such a momentous impulse that you'll know what you've done. And you might be someone sitting in your backyard, doing gardening, sitting in the house, cooking a meal, and all of a sudden, boom, and for the next 6 months you'll be hearing it on television of what's happened in another part of the world. This is the reality of who we are. And you can walk around with a smile on your face and that great joy in your heart because you know you've achieved what you came here for. It has no reasoning, it has no timing, it is just when it's time for the flowers to blossom, they do. And even if they're not fed properly, they still try to blossom. And if it's time for a tree to grow, it'll grow out of stone. It'll grow in the middle of your concrete pad. This is just a small indicator of where we're all going. And all the logic that comes into everybody's mind will actually make you laugh. Because as soon as you go past it and look back, if you reverse the decision you make out of logic, it usually works. But if you go with logic, you just end up with needing more logic. More difficulty, more problem, more working out. But if out of nowhere you do the opposite to what you thought you should do, a whole lot just disappears. Because logic is the raveling up of fictitious data to make it look like it is something. And logic in the world where you come from is what you do to hide your magic. Have you ever seen a magician try to attract your attention and do all sorts of crazy things, and over here he pulls something out of his pocket? That's logic. And that's what we have been living with and forgetting about the magic. So as you start to hear the logic of the world coming at you, just switch on your magic. That's the best time to do anything. That's the best time to make a difference. And never get involved. Just step back a little and turn the magic on and watch what happens. So everywhere there is deception, race in there and play with the magic. And then you get away with it. And nobody knows how you did it or why. So everything has a purpose, everything has a use. And what exists has a use. And all we have to do is a little bit of magic and enhance it and give it a result that amazes everyone without even being in the middle of it. The slightest chance of using your magic will start to show to you, and your eyes will light up, and that signal will come now. Yes, all right, and you'll buzz. You know you've made a difference, and the systems of the world can't see it. The brilliance that we're about to demonstrate, we've protected for many, 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 many years. Only because we weren't in a position to allow the visitors to step forward and say, hey, remember this? Remember this? Remember the sparkles? Remember how good it was when you first got here? And that's all that was needed. Throughout the centuries, there's been special people coming to Earth and to other places just to do that simple thing. And in the meantime, all the deception was classed as life. But in fact, it existed without the magic. And if you want to play a trick on someone, the first thing you try to do is get them to look the other way, or say, I'm not going to tell you. And they get so interested in you not going to tell them that you can do whatever you like, because their focus just goes to the deception. In the world, we feel that deception. We feel it in the air, just like we feel when there's an earthquake coming. And that earthquake is actually the result of us not using our magic. We don't have to stop the earthquake. We just have to finish off the deception. So as we start to see all these things, instead of complaining about it, just go, right, let's get into it. We'll change this, they're not looking at that, we can change that, we can change that, we can change that, and say nothing. And then all of a sudden, all the lights on the street that you drive along will turn green. No matter what you do, things will go in your direction. And nobody knows. And it doesn't really disturb anyone. So these are just some of the practical, everyday things that you can play with. We've been all the way out there, and now we're coming back in to play with the world. But we're coming back in and leaving our perspective behind. We're only looking at what is new. We're not going out and coming back and comparing, or going to sleep and saying, well, that was hard. Much of what we'll do in the future will make sure that we don't need to actually almost pass out every time we try to do something positive. It will be the other way around. And without comparing us now to how we were, I can't even speak about it. The brilliant feelings that come through your body don't come through anything that you actually do. They come because you've decided to not live there. You live in that mystical being, and your body gives you the most beautiful feedback and experience. But if you're in there, it gets stuffed up. That's why they use that word. It's got too much stuffed into it, and it can't perform. Because you're pretty big, and you know, just take the intensity that you can deliver to anything. You can explode something with your intensity. How do you think your body feels when you put that intensity into it? It starts to burn, starts to fall to pieces, starts to ache. Many things that will go through that relieve the body. Even if you're walking up the street or running, get out of your body and watch it. It'll perform for you. It'll really perform for you. And it'll do lots of stupid things that keep you entertained. And the result will be a feedback between the two of you that's just brilliant. If you want to go up a hill, you know, take yourself up the hill first, then pull your body up. It works. There are things that the body can do, the things that you can do when you're in your body. But when you get back out of it, and you know that you have that spark connected, totally protected, never lost, you can do some amazing things. And you can welcome each other in a whole different way. You welcome one another before you actually arrive. And this is a beautiful thing. Admittedly, we've got all the phones and we've got all the communications. But most times you know anyway that someone's going to ring or they're coming or whatever. And you introduce yourself before they get here. You just get out of what you're doing, let your body go into automatic, and all of a sudden all the stress disappears. And all the things you thought you had to do don't matter. And I'm going to be late for such and such gets changed. You arrive at the most convenient time because you didn't rely on the time system. This is just random stuff that I'm grabbing from everywhere so that there's a feeling of freedom, of elation in the games you can play and in the variations that you can talk about to one another. But nobody can teach anybody anything. What they can do is say, did you know you can do this? In the past, someone would have said, how? Now they'll say, oh, is that right? I'll try it. The bit in the middle disappears. And it might be a year later they report back, hey, you know that thing we were speaking about a year ago? I did it. And they'll say, oh, great. And time disappears. There are a few little exercises that I used to show people who felt fragmented and who'd spent a lot of their life saying, well, that's no good, I'm not going to do that again. Oh, God, oh, that went wrong. And they're throwing major parts of their life away, of their character, of their possibilities. I used to just get them to sit and wait for a while until I could take them to that place where there's no time. Then I'd say, now just drop time out of everything. Just drop it all out and let it disappear. And all their life came back together automatically. After about 20 seconds, I'd say, how do you feel? They say, what? Totally different person. What was your problem? I can't remember. Did I have a problem? Great, let's have a beer and we'll go. And that's how long it used to take. And I could do that sitting in a bar, on the beach, or whatever. I stopped doing it because that world was focused around problems. We've now moved from there, and they all fell away anyway. So you don't have to fix any fictitious problems. And they're only there because they're separated by time. And like, you can't have a fictitious problem if it doesn't have a time barrier. So if you drop the time barrier, it all disappears. And you can just stand in front of someone and say, so what was that about? And they say, what was what about? Because you dropped time, there is no function. So everybody has that ability, and you can actually look at someone a fraction of a second and move them with your magic. Just lift them like that, and they go to that place where there is no time, everything drops away, and they go, what was that? You don't say a word, smile, walk away, you know you've fixed it. This is what trees do. They take you into a non-time zone. Or it's a time zone that's totally slow compared to yours. Like, even if you lived for 100 years, the tree's been there centuries. Even if it's died and grown and died and grown. Its root system will be repeated, and so the equivalent of your day is 100 years. So it's really steady. And as soon as you sit with them, your time disappears and you start to feel that whole being that's not fragmented. And that's the real reason you say trees heal. Because they take the time out and allow you to defragment and put yourself back together. Right back to where you were as a child. On another level, you can look at the effect that electromagnetic vibration has on you, has on your body, and various things in the world that seem acidic, if you like, very harsh. None of those things can remain under the elegance of that mystical being. So as soon as you remember that mystical being that you are hiding, all those harsh things disappear. They look like they're there, but they do not affect anyone. That's part of the mystery. It's part of the reason why many of us live in totally harsh situations and have a smile on their face. Mm-hmm. Because as you invoke that mystical being, nothing matters. And the happy switch is broken and stuck on, and everything works. No matter what's happening to you, you're happy. Even if your body looks like it's dying, you're fine. And now that's going to change as well, because the degradation in various parts of our interaction were caused by collisions amongst people. And they're caused by us not looking from way out there. When you look from way out there, your control system automatically takes over and you don't run into anyone. And you don't direct anything straight to anyone. You communicate between one another. And what comes to the person is always perfect for the person. And we all know that you can get 10 people, give them a half a dozen words, and say, now compare them, and nobody can get it right. Because everything is fed to everybody differently. And it's not necessary that they have to be the same. In fact, if they're the same, there's something wrong. And many people are totally aware of that. Or even in schools. If you find two answers the same, you know they're copied. It's a foolproof system because nothing is ever the same. So when we when we look at where we're going next, it's everywhere. And it's everything. And it's never ending. And the more we expose ourselves to this mystery that's so interesting, the more we discover every week. And now that we've opened up to some of the little things that you can do in life, you've got lots to do before we meet again. So enjoy yourselves, and remember to lift one another in sparkles and a bit of mischief, and life's great. Thank you.